Hi everyone, welcome to this session. This is PBS Drives Content Engagement with Amazon Personalize. My name is Beena Chandran. I'm a solutions architect with the nonprofits team here at Amazon Web Services, which means that I have the pleasure of working with PBS on this and many other projects. Today we are so excited to share with you the work that PBS has done to build out a content recommendation engine. And I'm also going to be able to talk to you about Amazon Personalize so that you can understand how you might integrate it into your business, no matter how big or small.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mikey Centrella. I'm a director of product at PBS. I work on an innovation team with 2 engineers, and we build rapid prototypes in emerging technology and have done experiments with machine learning, virtual reality, augmented reality, interactive video, voice, and many more things. But today, I'm here to talk about our work with Amazon Personalize. PBS wanted to build a recommendation engine so that we could serve our viewers video results that are personalized just to them. And I hope that you find you can do the same thing with your customers after you hear our story.
So here's the agenda for today. We're going to talk about the importance of personalization, and I'm going to do a quick primer on Amazon Personalize just to get us all on the same page. Then I'm going to turn it over to Mikey, who's going to take us through the PBS mission and how that mission led to a set of objectives that they use for this project. We're going to get to see a demo, which I'm really excited about, and then he's going to tell us what's next for PBS. Then I'm going to do a deep dive on Amazon Personalized features so you can see how they might apply to your business. So first, let's just set the stage by talking about the current landscape. Personalization is everywhere, and it's something that we all experience often on a day-to-day basis. It's in our online retail, it's in our gaming, it's in our social media. It's really everywhere. There's more customer interactions to record and different touch points than ever before. We're interacting on our mobile applications, standard websites, smart TVs, voice assistants, you name it, we're there. And with that, there's really an expectation that we're going to be doing something valuable, right, with all of that data that we're collecting. Customers today expect frictionless, curated experiences across all of their digital channels. And in fact, as you can see here on the slide, 63% of consumers see personalization as the standard level of service. So leaders everywhere are making investments to try to meet those expectations. And when they do make those investments, these are some of the benefits that they're seeing. So first off, they're really able to attract new customers and keep their customers in an increasingly crowded digital environment. They're also able to increase engagement, whatever that might mean to their business, whether that's click-through rate, time spent on your website, number of purchases, donations, email open rate. All of these things kind of inherently end up driving efficiencies and revenue. And the last benefit I want to highlight is discoverability, which is particularly important for organizations with large catalogs where new products are constantly being added. Discoverability just means helping customers find what they're looking for or helping them discover what they didn't know they were looking for. So really useful for a customer such as PBS. So how do we at AWS approach this whole situation? Well, enter the AWS machine learning stack. We see the machine learning stack as having 3 distinct layers. In the bottom layer, we have frameworks and infrastructure that are really meant for expert practitioners. In the middle layer, we have the machine learning services that make it easy for machine learning developers to build, train, tune, and deploy their models. And in the top layer, which is the one that we are going to focus on, are the AI services that allow developers to use pre-trained or automatically trained machine learning models to add intelligence to any application without ML expertise. So we're focusing in on this layer today and specifically on Amazon Personalize. Amazon.com uses a lot of personalization. If you've ever done any type of shopping on Amazon.com before, you're probably really familiar with things like if you bought this, you might be interested in this, or if you added this to your cart, maybe you'd like to check out this as well. Based on what we've learned about personalization over the years, we launched Amazon Personalize in June 2019. It's a fully managed service that automates all of the different complex steps that are required to build, train, tune, and deploy a machine learning recommendation engine. So with Personalize, there's a bunch of different things you can do. The first is that you are really able to deliver personalized user experiences faster, because you're not expected to reinvent the wheel and start from scratch. You're building on decades of experience. All data is encrypted to be private and secure and is only used to create a recommendation engine for you and your customers. Data is not shared between customers or with Amazon.com. And a major upside to this, other than the obvious security benefits, is that your model is really custom built for your particular use case and your data set. You can respond really quickly to changing user intent. Because Personalize is using powerful deep learning, it's able to respond to really subtle changes in behavior, even considering something like the order in which a user is clicking on different things. This would be really impractical with alternative solutions. Next, Amazon Personalize can automate all the different steps to deploy a model. You don't need to worry about identifying features, scaling your training cluster, identifying hyperparameters. All of that is done for you. You barely even need to know what that stuff means. And lastly, the output of using Amazon Personalize is a curated, private recommendation API that you can integrate into whatever applications you need to. So how does Amazon Personalize work? Well, you start by providing data about your users and your items. The data that we use for modeling is 3 different types. The first is user events or interactions. All this means is it's what are your users doing? Are they clicking on items? Are they hitting like on them? Are they purchasing them? Are they watching them? The exact type of activity is going to depend on your use case. This is the only data set that is mandatory for using Amazon Personalize because we found that it has the strongest signal for generating really good recommendations. The second data set is details about your items. So this could be any type of data you might have in your product catalog, price point, categorical information, genre. This data set is technically optional, but really valuable for many use cases. And the third data set includes details about the user. Could be demographic information, their location, their age, what type of device are they browsing on. You could also get maybe the type of user they are. Are they a free user, a paid subscriber? Are they a long-term member, etc.? And to get started, you don't need to have terabytes of data. You just need to have 50 users, 50 items, and 1,500 interactions. So really not that much. Now, once you get all that data into Amazon Personalize, in just a few clicks, you'll get a custom private personalization model that's trained and hosted for you, and an API that you can use to integrate into your applications. But what's happening behind the scenes is Amazon Personalize is automatically inspecting your data, identifying features, selecting hyperparameters, doing all this stuff. And the important thing to notice here is that all of these tasks are abstracted away from you. So you really don't need to worry about it. And you can focus on outcomes. How are these recommendations influencing your KPIs? And now I'm going to turn it over to Mikey to tell us about PBS and their story.
At PBS, our mission is to serve the American people. We are a nonprofit, actually over 330 nonprofit member stations who work together to produce content that enriches, engages, and entertains. Over the course of a year, 80% of households, that's like 206 million people, watch PBS. And just about every month, 370 million videos are watched across PBS platforms. For many Americans, PBS is their window into the world, an opportunity to see a Broadway show for the first time, or to visit a national park, or explore space. And for many young Americans, PBS has been their educational classroom at home, especially over the past 2 years. We're not just public television, but rather digital multimedia that is delivered on the web, mobile, over the top, and video on demand. Up next is our current product, the way we encourage users to continue watching PBS. And it works pretty well. It essentially shows you the next episode, one after another. But if you think about it, that's not personalized. And it doesn't help you discover something either similar to the episode that you're watching or the show that you're watching, and certainly doesn't help you search for new things that you might also like. So when my team was first brought on board, we talked to many of the folks at PBS and asked them, what could PBS be doing better? How could we create a more engaging experience for our viewers? And many of them said a recommendation engine is the one thing that would really make a huge difference, because not only would it help us keep up to speed with where our competitors are, but it will provide a much more engaging experience for our viewers. Keep them on our PBS platforms for longer, hopefully keep them watching more content that they already like, hopefully help them discover content that they didn't know was in our catalog, and maybe encourage them to become a supporter or donate to us. But for any streaming video on demand platform, there's some challenges. Viewers have so much choice right now. The average US household has 4 streaming services. In addition, we are watching more on more places than just the television, on our mobile phones and elsewhere, and there are niche multi-platform content networks that are rising up every day. Viewers want something that's personalized, and personalized both in the content and as well as the experience. All this leads to fragmentation and choice. For PBS, we also have our own set of challenges to consider. We've got our uniqueness of content, and we have our uniqueness of experience. Viewers want to see that come across too. So we've got news that could be clips from 2 to 10 minutes long, documentaries that can go on for hours, all of that enriching kids and educational content, and of course the local element from the member stations providing rich content about what's happening and relevant in your area. We had to think about all of these challenges together as we considered what solution would be best and put that together into a plan. We came up with these core objectives, knowing that personalization is the name of the game and that the user experience has got to provide the audience with value. We set some clear objectives for whatever solution we might consider. To surface the most relevant programs to viewers of the highest quality that's tailored to their interests, to learn how to leverage that and grow and build upon that, and establish some sort of infrastructure so that we can build a recommendation engine platform that delivers more than just videos, perhaps might even deliver marketing or fundraising types of experiences as well. All that sounds pretty complex, and PBS is a nonprofit. My team is a small team, and so we wanted to ensure that whatever solution we look for, another consideration was timing and resources. How could we get this done faster? How could we deliver this quicker in months instead of years so that we can get to those learnings? And so we started to look at what solutions out there could give us a leg up, something out of the box, where we could plug into our existing tools and our databases without having to reconfigure a lot of things. We did a couple of experiments internally in Hack Days and looked at what made the most sense that could plug in via APIs. That we were already a customer of AWS and have been for 10 years. A lot of our cloud operations were there, so that was an easy place for us to start. But we did look at a few other particular options that could work well. But with Amazon Personalized, just inserting a small set of viewers and videos and interactions, we saw recommendations that stood up and could possibly scale. From there, we knew it was time to go a step further, do a real proof of concept, and establish an architecture that could plug in with our existing databases. So we set up a cloud environment and architecture that's flexible enough for any future personalized experience we might want to create. Again, PBS is not just one entity, but many entities working together. We may want more than just one recommendation engine doing more than just video. However, for video on demand, we saw the solution to be a serverless architecture that could take APIs from our existing data, our video catalog, our viewers, and our Google Analytics information, feed them through a variety of step functions into a data ingest pipeline to get them into our data lake, where then they can be set up and processed with machine learning, and then analyzed by Amazon Personalize, which is using artificial intelligence to make predictions, and then deliver that back out on the front end to our viewers. From there, we also wanted to make sure our viewers could provide feedback in real time to help fine-tune the model so that the recommendations they're receiving are even more relevant. But real quick, this demo that you're about to see is a standalone demo. It's not connected to the PBS website and our smart TV apps at the moment, and we did that on purpose so that we would have a way to solicit feedback and understand what would need to be done before we actually implement it. I'm logged into pbs.org as a WETA member. Let's check my viewing history. Yes, so I recently watched Tell Me More with James Corden. And previously I watched Great Performances, Now Hear This, Becoming Mozart. So let's take a look and see how Amazon Personalize takes my watch history and gives me a list of recommendations. You can see the first recommendation is James Corden on Broadway, and subsequent are other great performances. We programmed the system to show a match score for each item. Here it's 99%. This gives me confidence in the algorithm and makes me trust PBS is being transparent with the use of my data. If I watch this episode now, my viewing history that I showed on the previous tab will update, while Personalize simultaneously updates my top picks list. Let's see what else Personalize is suggesting as a top pick for me. Oh, here's a Washington Week WETA show about Joe Biden. The match score is much lower because I haven't really watched this program before, but I am a WETA member. Now here's the fun part. If I hit the thumbs up button, it gives immediate real-time feedback to Personalize. And now more relevant items deeper in the catalog are at the top of the list. First pick is another Washington Week WETA episode on Joe's book. Looking deeper, there's also some more about James Corden's Broadway performances. And if I scroll down a little bit further, I see more news clips, WETA programs, and other great performances too. Incredible, right? Moving on to the last section, Top 10 over last week shows how Personalize presents recommended titles from aggregate data of what is popular with viewers like me, but without my watch history or the feedback loop weighing in as variables. This will help me discover unique PBS content that I may not have been aware of, like documentaries, educational shows, and trending stories, which delivers on PBS's mission. This personalized experience based on my interactions with PBS content entices me to watch more and strengthens my affinity for WETA membership. Our results really showed some great benefits from Amazon Personalize. Just with this small proof of concept, it demonstrates how personalization can appear on the front end for PBS users. It demonstrates how to show and deliver recommendations in the video results, and helps us PBS forward our mission by showcasing videos that are deeper in the catalog and engaging in ways that viewers may not have experienced already. Plus, it establishes a data lake and machine learning operations platform that is a baseline for further growth for PBS. In the next phase, we intend to build out a beta that can easily integrate into more of our platforms and be handed off to a product team so that they can create more filter functions, such as adding local content, genres, categories, and duration types into what Personalize delivers. From there, we'll do some A/B tests with additional metadata to see how we can fine-tune the model and create an even more engaging experience for our viewers. So, what are the key takeaways? Well, having a recommendation engine enables PBS to engage its audience and create a much better way to deliver our mission through our showcasing of award-winning programming and giving our viewers the experience they want. We know it's going to increase engagement, retention, conversions, and reduce churn, making our viewers' experiences much better and crafting a better relationship with all of our supporters.
Thank you so much for that, Mikey. That was really helpful. And before we move on, I just want to be crystal clear that there are tons of applications for this type of artificial intelligence beyond just media and entertainment. There's the example of retail, like I mentioned before. This technology is based on the exact same stuff that Amazon.com is using on their website. But there's also a whole host of other use cases. Nonprofits can use this technology to highlight causes to volunteer for or to donate to. Folks in the education sector can tailor materials for their students, and private companies could potentially do this the same for their employee training. Government agencies can use this technology to recommend programs to folks who are eligible for them. Patients can receive curated content to help educate them and just make them feel supported on their health journey. And the last example I'm going to give here is an events platform that recommends sessions and events to attend. I'm going to use this last one as an example to illustrate different features as we go through the rest of the slides. So just imagine, we've got this application that lists AWS events and sessions to users, much like the ones that we use at our AWS conferences. So we decide to start using Amazon Personalize, and now we're actually vending personalized recommendations to users based on what they're clicking, hitting like on, what they're attending. So I'm going to talk about features of Amazon Personalize, but while I do, try to keep this example application in the back of your mind. It'll help us imagine what these features look like in the real world. So we discussed before about how you start with 3 different data sets in order to use Amazon Personalize. But let's say that you created your personalized model yesterday. So that means you are going to be creating your model based on data from yesterday and before that. But I just downloaded your application and interacted with it a bunch today. So how is all that new interactions data going to be incorporated into the model? How are you going to start reacting to what I'm doing? Well, the solution to this is that you can stream in real-time data. Personalize is automatically going to update based on all of those interactions that it's gathering from me today as I'm interacting with the application. So let's say I just pulled up the application, I'm looking at the catalog. My browser is going to make a request for a recommendation. The server running this application is going to make an inference query. All that means is it's asking for a prediction for what I want to see. Personalize is then going to send a recommendation right back to me. So just to be totally clear, setting up an event stream is not automatically retraining the model. You would not want that to happen because that would be really expensive and really time consuming, just not efficient. So what's actually happening here is this real-time event data is helping Personalize update weights for its existing machine learning model behind the scenes. So this is really powerful. This next feature is probably pretty familiar to most folks. In this example, we're using a particular algorithm in Personalize to recommend if you like this, then you might like this titles. Basically, it's able to search across your entire catalog to find essentially similarity scores between different items. And it's going to make recommendations to you based on that. So for example, if our application saw that you attended the AWS Hackathon for Good and maybe enjoyed it, then it might also recommend Girls Tech Day. Maybe it's able to compute some similarity between those 2 events. One of the really hard parts about creating a recommendation engine is dealing with new items or new users. So how does Personalize account for this? Well, each new user, for example, me after I just download the application for the first time, is going to start with a representation of just the most popular items. You know, it seems like most people might like them. So that's great, but it's not exactly personalized, right? The cool part is what happens after the new user starts to interact with those items. So as I'm clicking around, I'm using the app, maybe hitting like, maybe I'm attending things, those events are going to be funneled into Personalize, and recommendations are going to be quickly updated based on those new interactions without having to retrain the model, just like we saw before. So this delivers up-to-date personalization for brand new users that we initially knew nothing about. So that handles new users. How about new items? Let's say that we've got some new content, a DC Summit that's coming up. Let's just say we've never had the AWS DC Summit before. We have no attendance data, no idea who might like to attend it. So how do we know whether our users are going to like to see this as a recommendation on their app? Personalization of new products is inherently difficult because machine learning tends to depend on historical data, and in this case, we don't have any. So in a scenario like this, a lot of recommendation engines might just make recommendations for products that they know enough about and ignore the rest. Obviously, that's not ideal. We want people to show up to DC Summit. So how does Personalize account for this? Well, it'll recommend new products to users who have positively engaged with similar products in the past. So what this means is it might look at, say, Public Sector Summit, which we have data about. It's going to look at who attended Public Sector Summit. It's going to notice that there's a similarity between Public Sector Summit and DC Summit. And it's going to start recommending DC Summit to folks who previously went to Public Sector Summit, since those two are probably pretty similar. Next up is filtering. So filtering basically helps us create personalized categories of items. So for our events application, we might have, these are just two examples I picked up. So we might have a section for public sector related events. We might have a section for startup related events, and we'd recommend them for you in that way. You're probably really familiar with this already from online retail or streaming applications. You can imagine for online retail, it might be something like gifts under $25 or products rated 4 stars or over. And for streaming applications such as PBS, you might see something like comedies or dramas or documentaries. So let's look at a few more examples of what this might look like for our particular application. Well, you might want to include specifically events that a user has already attended in the past so they can relive the action, or maybe just top-rated events. You might want to exclude events that are not in your area. People maybe are not so interested in traveling right now. So we've already talked about how you can use an items data set with metadata about your items. So for example, in our events application, we might be having a session as an item, and metadata could be things like the duration of the session, the topic of the session, the level of complexity, etc. But Personalize, as of a recent update, can actually take this a step further. So instead of just requiring you to pull out all that data yourself, it can actually take in paragraph content, such as a synopsis for a session like this one. It could take in a product description or product reviews. So you just input, for example, the session abstract, and Personalize is going to use natural language processing to extract the relevant information, pull out the interesting features, and funnel that into the recommendation engine. So for this particular session abstract, as you can see, I just pulled out one sentence. Maybe it would pull out terms like this, behind the scenes, and use that to tune the model. So this is really powerful, right? Because there's often a lot of valuable data that's locked in descriptions like these, but it can be challenging to extract this or time consuming if a person actually has to go through and read that stuff and put it into Personalize. So this feature really helps to automate that process. So here are a few more key features I wanted to highlight. This is by no means an exhaustive list, but just some ones that I wanted to throw out there. So auto-scaling campaigns. We've got this events application, right? And it's been relatively quiet due to the pandemic. We haven't seen a ton of traffic over the past couple of years. But let's say we've got a really big event coming up, AWS reInvent. And all of a sudden, we're seeing huge levels of traffic coming into our website. So how does Personalize deal with that? Well, the way that we do it is you are expected to set a minimum transactions per second, or TPS, that you expect just at your steady state. And it'll scale up and out automatically from that minimum. And of course, possibly more importantly, back down when the traffic abates, so you're not paying for stuff you're not using. This is really powerful because you're not responsible for managing your own inference cluster or predicting your user behavior minute to minute. The next feature I want to highlight is batch inference. So we've been talking for the most part, about real-time inference throughout this presentation, and that's really useful for an application type scenario. So I'm a user, I go onto the application, my browser makes a request just for me, right? But sometimes you want to export large quantities of recommendations, for example, in an email campaign. So batch data might be more appropriate for that, and we have a whole feature called batch inference, which helps you submit a set of users and then return to yourself a large set of recommendations at once. And the last feature I'm going to highlight is optimizing recommendations for a business metric of your choice. So Personalize will automatically attempt to optimize on a certain metric that you define. So this could really be anything. It could be for example, most revenue, or least royalties to pay, or whatever is relevant to your use case. Really, the idea here is that Personalize will be able to vend really good recommendations while also keeping that metric in the back of its mind. So what is the best way to move forward and test the impact of Amazon Personalize on your customer experience? Well, there are a few different options. The first one is you can really quickly and easily try it out for yourself, just going onto our Getting Started guide on GitHub. You could just navigate to this right now. We can also help you stand up a proof of concept. You can work with us, or you can work with an Amazon partner using our POC in a Box program. So really what the purpose of this is to evaluate different use cases and test the service with your own data. Remember, all you need is 50 users, 50 items, and 1,500 interactions in order to get started. The third option is we can connect you with the AWS Partner Network, connect you with a preferred partner who could be able to help you with anything from building a business case to developing a pilot to actually integrating Personalize into your real applications. And lastly, we can host just all kinds of training to help your developers get up to speed on using Amazon Personalize. And this is the same type of training that's used to train our AWS developers internally. So the key takeaway here is we have loads of ways to support you, so please don't be shy. And with that, I want to thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Mikey, for sharing your story. And if you'd like to learn more about PBS and the work they've done, or about Amazon Personalize, or about anything in between, please do feel free to reach out to us through our emails or our LinkedIns, which are shown here on the slide. Thank you for joining.